Hey, what is up everybody, Blades for here, and today I have for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about, of course, another helpful freaking persona for the Compendium series, and that is going to be the thing itself, Dominion. Now, Dominion is one of the few personas that are in this game that is pretty darn good, to say the least. They're also going to be kind of a buffer like Dionysus was, and you're technically going to be using them two side by side. So of course, since we already covered Dionysus, might as well cover Dominion here, seeing them two really do go well together. So like we did in the last video, we're going to have, of course, the whole overview of this persona in general, and then we're going to tell you guys where to farm it, just different things of that nature, and eventually going into different important skills that you guys might want to get into. But without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so going ahead and taking a look at the Dominion here, this angel does a lot for you in general. Kind of like Dionysus, where we have our crit rate, which is going to get boosted a lot using Dionysus. This one works a little bit differently, but it's working on the attack boosting side of things. So this persona you're going to also want kind of hand in hand with Dionysus, because both of them do help out quite a lot, and they're mainly going to be your support type builds, especially if you're trying to boost up your team / boost up Wonder himself. Without a doubt, if you are going to be using Dominion, do keep in mind there are going to be some mandatory things that you're going to need to at least have, which I'll go over those skills. Now, first things first is where to farm this guy. He's not one that you can actually recruit, unfortunately. He is only farmable, kind of like Alice in them, and boy oh boy does it take a lot to actually merge this guy. Now, I ended up merging him and getting a ton of things, or at least all of his dupes for it. Did take a little bit, it at least took a decent bit of stamina, but you're gonna need a lot of things. So first of all, Tadanya seal here, you're gonna need that. You're gonna need a few things such as the Myriad seal here as well, and all of them are different, like 3-step processes, which can be somewhat annoying. Now, some of these, of course, you can just go ahead and farm. Like this one is a level 60 dungeon that you can farm. Seeing the pity is at 2. They can drop before the pity, but of course, if you do have bad luck, you get him guaranteed after 2, which is really nice. But as you guys can really see, it takes a lot to actually farm this guy. He is a 3-step process, and if you did already do Oberon, if you just wanted to pull him out of there, it's very expensive. So this persona takes a lot of things off of you, and you are really going to need to sit down and just try to build them up as possible, because we really want to get those dupes because it helps out his overall attack boosting process. Seeing this whole persona is based off that attack boost type deal, you really want to push for those dupes as much as possible. So with the overview out of the way here, what are some important skills that you guys exactly want to have on this persona? Well, this persona itself, you gotta have 2 skills in particular, and these skills are kind of universal with a lot of the high tier support characters or support personas here, and that is going to be agile, insight, and attack boost. Both of these are going to be needed. You cannot skip out on these guys. They don't need to be 4. I think before pretty much I was going through everything, I was mainly trying to max out this guy the best that he could possibly be, and I don't regret it, first of all. But the main reason why you want these 2 is because 1, you got to make sure Wonder's fast enough to at least hold his own, to get his buffs up and stuff like that. But 2, you also have to get as much attack percentage as possible. Once again, this persona is based on attack, and it's needing a lot of attack to pretty much give you the best buffs that you can possibly have. So you want to have as high attack boost as possible. But if we're going to do this the optimal way, or at least a way that most people should be going for, only go for Speed Master 3 or Agile Insight 3, and then attack boost 3. Anything above that is kind of overkill or a little bit too much unless you are spending. Hence the reason I got what I have right now. But try to stick around the 3 mark when it comes to these guys. 4 is a decent buff, but it's not necessary. It's just pretty much overkill. And just at that point, you're kind of doing too much, which I was definitely doing too much this one. But there are other things that are definitely possible. Now, when it comes down to at least Dominion as well, something that you should know is giving a Wonder as much attack as possible will help you deal them, at least do the best. Wonder is able to reach higher than 4k attack if I'm right. It's just going to be coming down with certain circumstances. So you are going to need to utilize at least some different things here. I believe one other skill that can be useful is called Attack Master. I have to figure out exactly which one that is, because this one was actually recommended by Tycon, in which my boy, I forgot to ask for the real translation on that one, because our translations are somewhat distinctively different than one another. So finding the Attack Master, oh, here it is right there, in which this is going to be another one that's kind of a must-have. And this is if you wanted to really hit that cap. But anyways, let's go ahead and get on to the optional, or at least optional type skills that you guys can use on them. It's not going to be too different from the last one, so expect to see the same like people kind of pop up. All right, so starting off with the first one, which is going to be Dakini. Dakini is one of the few personas that you would only be going for their main skill if you're not using this skill on Dionysus, and that is going to be Rebellion. Dakini itself unlocks a lot of things really early, so if we go ahead and upgrade it real quick so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. Unlocks a lot of things early on, so we get Agile Insight off rip, we get Rebellion off rip, and things of this nature, and it's pretty darn easy to get this persona just off of regular just farming. This thing is going to come with the main things that you really need in general. So if you guys really need Agile Insight or Rebellion, this is going to be the persona that you're going to really want to have. But the only time you would get Rebellion off of this persona is if you're not using it on Dionysus. If you're using it on Dionysus, this is utterly obsolete, so you do not need it anymore. You can use it on someone else. But still, if you decide to actually use Rebellion on him, this is also a good pick. Next one on the list is going to be the man Ose. Now, Ose is kind of one of those universal personas that is really useful no matter what you're doing. And the main reason for this is because we want that nice old life boost. Now, if you're really feeling a little bit interesting, you could get the auto Matsurukaja, which is pretty decent as well because you're getting yourself that automatic attack percentage as well. Though the main thing that we're here for is going to be the max HP. The more HP that we have, the better, because we want to still be a good supporter at the end of the day. That is all Wonder is being at the end of the day. So we got to make sure we have as much HP as possible to keep Wonder alive. So having this life boost is really helpful, and it's pretty obtainable with this guy as well. So I will say it's always a good pick. Kuomokuten is another one that is actually really good as well. This one in general has the Regen III. I think we talked about it in the last video build as well. This is always nice to have because of course we're just restoring health in general. So if you do feel like that you're going to lose a decent bit of health while setting up or anything like that, you can very well just go ahead and get this by just using this dude. It's not really a bad decision. He does have an auto Mataru on him as well, but I would not suggest getting this because of course it's based on switching mask, which you're going to be doing that quite a lot. So if you switch mask, you automatically lose that buff. So I would definitely say the only thing that's useful on him, at least out of this build, is definitely going to be regenerate. And that's if you just want a little bit of HP at the end of each turn. Next on the list is Leonon Said. Once again, this is a persona that is very optimal. This early game, you can get her very quickly as well. As you can see, she's only level 35, so she is definitely really early game. The main reason you would have this is because you want Rakunda or Rakunda. This is pretty much what you need if you're going for that like immediate setup for just a one-shot hit. I personally don't know if I would use this on him, or at least on Dominion myself, but I mean, it's still pretty darn good to have in general. This is going to help you at least those defense downs, and then you can go in for the big boy shots. But if you want to and you don't feel like you don't need any other attack boosting on Dominion, this is a really good move to use, to say the least. Lastly, but certainly not least, is Hecaton Kairos. Now, this is another really good persona as usual, and the main reason we are going to be using him is the reason that we always use him, and that is going to be for the resistant damage. Now, this move is really good in general, at least just to keep you from taking some damage, and seeing that of course we want Wonder to be as tanky and supportive as possible, having this on at least the persona that he's swapping to is not a bad situation or choice. It's actually pretty darn decent because at least Wonder he can take a decent bit of damage here. And so having that resistant damage can be very helpful. So I would advise trying to use this as well. But let's go ahead and get back to using Dominion. All right, so if we're overall talking about how to utilize Dominion correctly here, he's going to be that persona that you use kind of as your secondary persona. You have your first one to set up, which is mainly going to be Dionysus or someone who's of that caliber. And then your second persona that you would like to go ahead and set up will be Dominion. Now, the reason for this is because we really want to care about those like niche type stats, which are like our crit rate and things like that first, then go for one of those basic stats that we're going to really sit with. Now, the man himself, especially if you're not using Rebellion on Dominion, you're mainly going to be utilizing him second. Now, with this in mind, is because once we swap to our second persona, this is either going to be an additional buff that we're providing or a debuff. Either one can do really good. It just honestly depends on how you overly see your buffs and standpoints of how you're doing it. For example, for me, since I am going to be utilizing this character for more buffs here, I would per se go ahead and utilize him just for that. I wouldn't really put a debuff on him. I have a different persona for debuffs and like debuffing everything like that. So we of course have our attack boost, we have our agile insight here, and I would most likely start to use my cohesive. So once I go ahead and use my buff with Dionysus, I'll go ahead and turn back over with Dominion here, use cohesive to be able to get at least some more buffs here, get that nice old attack buff stack here, and that will be the easiest setup. Now, you could very well stay this persona for the third turn, but I would advise you probably not to. It isn't the best, I would say, point of action. You kind of want to just get on them real quick, get the attack buff, and just get back off, because then you have your setup already good. Then you just need to reset back up your crit, right? Because remember, if we're taking Dionysus and them two together, you're usually going to be using Dionysus twice and then Dominion, and seeing that next round Dionysus is going to be running out of one of his buffs, you then want to go ahead and swap back over to Dionysus. So once you do have this at least persona already here, get them for the at least basic old buff, swap back off, and then deal some damage. Now, if you want, instead of buffing here, which is totally optimal as well, if you want, you could use a debuffer, boom, use the debuff move here, then swap back to Dionysus for at least that buff and do your big boy damage. That is utterly possible, but I would kind of recommend him only keeping him as a little bit of a buffer and less of a debuffer. But at the end of the day, that does depend on how you guys really want to use Dominion himself, and it can honestly just come down to you guys. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do smash that like button with your forehead and consider subscribing if you are new. The next video we are going to do when it comes down to the Compendium series is going to be about Norn. So I'm going to try to get Norn a little bit built, and we're going to slowly start changing up the process of showcasing these. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace out.